I didn't say that when I got there because the locals have got real mean-looking locals, you know. They're all hard-working, you know, people. But what a fantastic place. Just listening to the different speakers and that, and a lot of it is about the land. It is about tourism. It's all bound up in one. I just want to talk something a little different with you now, and it's about operators. It's about private sector. It's about developing tourism. It's about taking tourism from where it's always predicted in the past to where we've actually taken it today. Very, very different place. It's really funny, you know, because here, you know, when you're starting up a tourism business, how many out there got their own tourism business? Can I just have a look, show of hands here? There's not, what about, okay, how many in the government sector? Can I just have a look how many government, holy, there's more government sector than there is. All right. That's okay. But it's really hard starting a business in any normal circumstances anyway. When you've got to start an indigenous cultural business within an industry as hard and fast commercially as the tourism industry, it's even harder. Usually, we have great ideas in terms of developing product. Problem, we ain't got no money. And it's usually the first question we ask whenever we approach a government official. Fellas, got any money? Isn't it? Because we have the ideas, but we don't have the funding. And isn't it funny how those who have got the ideas don't seem to have the funding? Those who got the funding got no idea. So somehow we actually have to pull these two together. And usually there's an external advisor in between that. I'm not going to rubbish those too much because I'm in one now. Okay, so I'm moving right along here. All right. So, and it is. I mean, I still vividly remember the very first time when I've been in this industry for 32 years now. I was working it out up there. I thought, my God, how long does one put up with this kind of punishment? 26 years of running our own business, portraying a people's lifestyle, Maori. And the thing about it is when you are in the tourism industry and you're portraying a people's lifestyle, you have an enormous amount of accountability. It's not just being commercially successful, but you have an enormous amount of responsibility to an entire people, a tribal people, the culture, the values and everything that goes with it. So putting a step forward has got to be the right step in terms of portraying one's culture. In the past, it's always been portrayed as plastic, hasn't it? Plastic, fantastic out there in the tourism industry. I got to say, Aussies, I haven't seen or heard of much Aboriginal experiences in this industry here in Australia. Find it really difficult to find one. When I first arrived in Sydney, I wanted an Aboriginal experience. I went to the information centre and they said, Blue Mountains, it's the only place. I said, you got a whole city here, 4.5 million people. Got to be some Aborigines living in the middle somewhere. Oh no, only experience up Blue Mountain, guided tours. So I hired a car, off I went, right up into the Blue Mountains. Took, I don't know how long, an hour's trip, is it, something like that. Finally get up there, and there's a little weeny note, you know, where the Aboriginal guide was supposed to be, saying that he's away painting his mate's house. So I went to the information centre up in the Blue Mountains, and I said, where's his mate's house? If he's not where he's supposed to be, I'm going to go where he is and get a cultural experience. I know we got some people from Canada. Hands up, those from Canada. Where are you? Where are you? Woo! All right, here, look at you. You don't look no different from us. But I spent a little bit of time up in Canada over the last 3 or 4 years. I don't know if you know that, but I spent a little time in a place called Val d'Or. Val d'Or, you're from Val d'Or? In Quebec, yeah. And also in Lethbridge. And working on some major projects up there. Here's another thing. Very little cultural experiences. You know what a lot of people don't understand in this industry? is when we are developing an indigenous cultural experience, we have to fight this battle going forward to be successful in the commercial industry. We're also continually fighting this battle to be culturally accepted amongst our own. And our biggest problem in terms of advancing on an economic basis or just a success basis in this damned industry is our own people hold us back. We've got a lot of young, great entrepreneurial leaders rising up through the ranks. But the elders, well, not the elders, but we just want to hold them back. We all go together. And it stifles the growth. It doesn't allow these young ones to come up and take their position as leaders. Take the reins. Move us to the next level. We're waiting. We're old enough. Well, I'm a little bit too old, but I mean, there's a lot of them out there that they're old enough, mature enough to take the reins. And we constantly battle this tall poppy syndrome about success. And it's really hard trying to develop an indigenous business. At the end of the day, we want it to be successful. The only way that we know that a cultural business within the tourism industry is going to be successful is if it's making money today. If it doesn't make money today, it's not going to be there tomorrow. That's the basis of it, irrespective of how much niceties and fluffies about the sensitivity of culture we want to bring into it. I've seen so many of them fail around the world. I travel all the time. I'm constantly visiting indigenous businesses. Most of them fail for that one point. Well, we're constantly looking after the commercial battle going forward and our own people going back. How are we supposed to look after the money? And on that basis, you've got to try really hard in terms of developing a product that's got to have some kind of kudos. When we need to do that, when we need to get credit and kudos within an indigenous business like ours or a Maori business like ours, you have to work twice as hard to get the credit. No, sorry. You've got to work 6 times as hard to get the credit of any normal business that only needs to do it once. There's always such a big element of mistrust in terms of an indigenous business starting up. We tried exceptionally hard with our product over the 28 years of its developing. Won numerous amount of awards. I've got a whole list of them here. I'm not even going to go through them because, it's just going to take too long to get through them. And our company, and I don't mind boasting this, it's just not me alone now, it's our company, is one of the most successful, sustainable, self-supporting, private sector indigenous business after 28 years. We're still together. And it's still just my brother and I who own the company. Yeah, we fight. Hell yeah. We still do. After 28 years, we argue and fight all the way down the line. What family doesn't? But we're still together. We're still together. And then the essence of success, it lies, is it supposed to go automatically? On making it financially successful. No, it's not. All right. Over the years, what have we developed? Full and half-day tours. I know what it's like to start off. Getting a little bus. Visiting all the attractions. Some of you are at that level. Some of you are at the level of wanting to start a business. And yet to get the funding for it. We started in that very space. The return on an annual turnover, it needed to be sustained by a social welfare department in the first few years of our actually operating a business. From there, we developed adventure 4-wheel drive mountain excursions, New Zealand's largest indoor orchid gardens, amazing water organ. We developed whitewater rafting adventures also in New Zealand, 4-wheel drive tours, horseback treks up to Mount Tarawera, returning an annual income of around about $200,000 after about 4 years in the business. Then we bought the Dark Wilderness Adventures down at Mount Aspiring in the South Island. The Glenorchy Information Centre, we bought that as well. We bought the local store in Glenorchy. We bought the camp and caravan site in Glenorchy. And then we bought the pub in Glenorchy. And the Glenorchy people said, "Oh no, here come the Maoris." had an annual turnover between $8 and $10 million. And then we developed evening cultural experiences, cultural education programs, bringing learning to life within existing school curriculums. What I really want to get onto, though, the company there, Indigenous Maori village that we actually designed, this particular photo you see up here, is part of the product that appeals to a high yield market as well. Company turning over between $12 to $18 million. Is that a success? How do Indigenous people measure success? Heard a lot of other things talked about it. Most people usually measure success by how much money you make, or what kind of car you drive, or what kind of house you own. Aboriginal, Indigenous people think the same way. That's how we measure success too, believe it or not. It's comfortable lifestyle. We're in this business for that. Not only are we in it for that, but we want to have a business to pass on to our children. Part of it is to retain the culture, save the country. But the other part of it is sustainable living. We're sick and tired of seeing our kids in lower socioeconomic situations. And in any way that we possibly can, we try to create a platform of successful economy. And the tourism industry is one of the easiest ones to get into because it's a low-level entry. It's interactive. Is this going to work? I'm just a little afraid, mate. It's a video. Do I press it? I wanted to show you a virtual reality fly-through that we actually done, but I'm not really quite sure. We've gone too far forward. Sorry, guys. All right, back here. No. There's the whole village that we actually developed in Rotorua. This is one that's running successfully on a year-round basis. From there, we went down into Christchurch, developed a project down there that was absolutely stepping outside the square box. What we did was we created an entire reenactment. You see, the thing is, no matter where you go around the world in terms of Indigenous experiences in the tourism industry, they usually always offer it in the same way, a song and a dance and a feed, right? The trouble is that we say, oh, we get our stories out through this song and dance and a pattern that's generally been around for many, many years. But guess what? The story doesn't really get out. The story doesn't get out. It's really hard to understand. And at least a good 80 to 90% of the time, it's considered as basic entertainment within the tourism industry. And your stories still don't get told. There's only one industry that really tells your stories, and that's the filming industry. Particularly with blockbuster movies that have come out. They're the thing, or that's the industry that really tells the story. The product that we developed down in Christchurch was a template for change in the tourism industry on a global basis. We developed a product where we took portions of history out of time and did total reenactment over a 12-acre piece of land. The story was real. It was raw. It was really us, warts and all. For the very first time ever, people walked through the story of the Māori people. Had no idea some of the traumatic events that our ancestors went through to bring us to where we are today. You see, it's a little bit the same with America or Canada, but mainly in North America. When we were kids, we always used to watch cowboy and Indian films. And John Wayne was always the winner. And when we were kids, everybody wanted to be a cowboy. Nobody wanted to be an Indian. Because you guys get on your horse half naked, running around those wagon trains, you get your ass all shot up. We're kind of looking at that saying, well, that's the way we wouldn't do battle. But I've recently found out it's the way that you guys don't do battle either. But it's what media has pushed out there in terms of what it is that we're being fed. It's the same with the Aboriginal people of Australia and New Zealand. Most people in the world had absolutely no idea of the traumatic past that you came through. Until we saw the film Rabbit Proof Fence. And when we saw that film, I couldn't believe it. Yeah, we were neighbours. but the story's never been told. Same with New Zealand as well. So when we say we're going to tell our stories, what is it exactly that you're going to tell the rest of the world? And how do you tell it? And those are some of some of the things that we sort of came across in our... I don't think this is going to work either. What a shame. Can't sort of see up here. It's... maybe if I press that... Oh, I'm sorry, guys. I did have a couple of videos up here. I'm not really... We're not going to get it. No. Right. Shall I just let it go, guys, and let you guys do it at the top? Anyway, it's total reenactments. Yeah, so we took portions of our history out of time. We built a project called Global Storytellers, which actually pulls these stories together from around the world in different cultures. Right now, the company is going ahead in leaps and bounds in terms of developing a major total online inbound operation or booking system that pulls a lot of these stories from Indigenous people all around the world. It's an entirely different, unique concept in terms of what we're doing. And at the moment, we're sort of working on a couple of major projects here in Australia. I'm going to go really quickly through it. Right now, what I did with the stories in New Zealand, I wrote the book, the novels of it, the 3 novels, there they are, the Chronicles of Witara. So as I said to you, the whole story is actually true. The events took place. The characters are slightly fictional, but then I own the intellectual property of those characters. I own the story, the intellectual property of the story. Is the story true? Yes, it is. So when you think from a retail perspective that comes out of that particular experience or story, we own it. We don't have any, or too much problems, well, we don't have any problems either with cultural politics or politics of any sort whatsoever. Because as I said, the stories are true. This particular experience down in Christchurch before it got hit by the earthquake is an absolute hit. An absolute hit for the first time ever on a large scale. We saw the reenactment of the true stories in the history of Māori people. And isn't it funny, you know, in terms of modern development that's taking place today, and technology does drive a lot of change. When we talk about it from an Indigenous perspective in the tourism industry, as advancement in terms of hiring people, we usually measure the success of Indigenous economic benefit in the tourism industry by employment. The funny thing about it is that we're employing less. And technology is actually driving a lot of the experiences. In our company, we haven't done that. In Rotorua, we hire 120 Māori people. Christchurch, we were hired about 60 people down there. And in Auckland development, we're putting together, over the next couple of few months, we'll probably hire about 30 people. So yeah, we are heavy people-laden in terms of the delivery of the experience. But that is truly what people come to see whenever they go into a different country. Right up here is just like how we're going to basically sort of pull the whole experience together. Instead of like, what country shall we travel next year? It'll be like, what story shall we follow? There are so many good stories. The one story that I really wanted to know a lot about in North America was the story of Crazy Horse. Do you think I could find it? Not a chance. I found a lot about Sitting Bull, but not about Crazy Horse. And I wanted at a big seminar in Banff, there's about 860 delegates there. And I think one of the precious moments of that particular meeting is when I asked if there was any direct descendants from Crazy Horse, and 3 young boys stood up, and you could have heard a pin drop. And I asked them, I said, is the fire still burning in the belly? I want to just take you through really quickly, this is really quickly what I'm doing here in Australia at the moment. Gold Coast, looking at wanting to connect with the Aboriginal in terms of introducing it into their brand. There's a huge opportunity right throughout East Coast or the Eastern Seaboard of Australia to actually put it into its right perspective. It didn't fit because the Gold Coast had its strong brand in terms of where it was. How do you fit Aboriginal into a hard and fast brand like fun and the theme parks and all that? It would be a bolt-on rather than an actual product in its own right, which is another real big problem that we have in the tourism industry in terms of Indigenous culture. If you want to make a statement, it has to be the product. It can't be a bolt-on to existing brands. So it was a matter of really pulling together what the essence of each of those things were, because us, like us Indigenous people, We like playing around with numbers and making things happen. In fact, I did a major study on the study of numerology. 3 is in there. Sea, land, and culture. I won't go through all the details in terms of how I got it to where it is. Where do we draw the line in the middle? It's real stories. It's storytelling. It definitely is. In terms of turning a brand around. Right throughout Australia, it's an interesting admission because you can actually talk about the regions as different chapters of the same novel, the novel book of Australia. And each chapter has got a responsibility of marketing or promoting the next chapter. Spirit, soul, and body, broken down from the 3, land, culture, sea, rainforest, Aboriginal, Gold Coast. And that spreads out into the 5 touchstones of any tourist experience that make or break an experience when they come to any country. The total experience. I wrote that up last night. I have no beginning and I have no end. I am neither mother or father. I have seen and heard all things. I was there at the creation of megafauna. I felt the first footsteps of the earliest people. I saw the new people come from a far and distant land. I felt the blood of the innocent pour through me the night of the massacre took place. I was in the mission and I felt your grief when they took the children away. Then who am I? You may well ask. I am the keeper of the stories. I'm the land. You've got such an amazing connection. What are you showing our children? What's this generation showing our children? The statistics that constantly come up time and time again, highest in unemployment, highest in crime rate, highest in social welfare. I'm just done. You want to come on up? She's going to push me off. There's really so much I really want to talk about. And connecting land with the people, with the stories. It's a different concept in terms of how we tell our stories. What the visitor is a more sophisticated, educated, knowledgeable visitor than we've ever had before. If we're too scared for these stories to get out because we think we're hanging our dirty washing out on the line for the rest of the world to see, guess what? We already know. Technology has taken us there already. So I'm going to kind of finish it up here because I've really run out of time. So there's a little bit more in terms of how all that actually works. If you want to talk to me a little later on in terms of what I am doing here in Australia with several groups, or what I am doing on a global basis, it's one thing to build a product, it's another thing to get the people there. Let's not forget that. It's getting the tourists there is another really big problem. Distribution, obviously major products being developed, mega $1 million projects fall over because they don't have the support from the tourism industry.